Annabel, this movie is centered around two words, probable cause. Tell us how this became the centerpiece of your movie.
In the summer 2007, the Board of County Supervisors in Prince William County passed a local ordinance mandating the police to check the immigration status of anyone they had probable cause to believe was undocumented. So people who looked undocumented to them, they were required to check their ID. To determine the probable cause is really to invite racial profiling, because it's almost impossible to look at someone and decide that there's probable cause unless you look at their ethnicity, the way they speak English, and the color of their skin. And so Prince William County became ground zero for this kind of national debate over what to do about illegal immigration. And what we saw unfolding in the county went way beyond policy, with people fighting on the streets and in the government center. And actually so much of the debate was happening online, anonymously. But it was impacting what was happening at the government center and on the street.
This movie becomes clearly aligned with, let's say, the left side of the aisle, for want of a better description. What about any sense that the center-right is being affected by this movie and three-dimensionalizing their opinion?
It's interesting because unlike some other issues, I think, immigration is an issue where it's very hard to say there's a left point of view and a right point of view, because some of the champions of immigration reform were people like, Senator McCain and even President Bush, And in the film, some of the heroes are actually Republicans, like Elena Almeida, who led this movement to repeal the probable cause mandate. She is a Republican, and she's actually a very conservative Republican. And Supervisor Noe is another Republican who became part of the movement to make the changes to the resolution. To me, the film is just as much about, extreme political tactics as it is about immigration. Immigration was just kind of, I think, almost a pretext for creating or inciting a sort of culture war.
But isn't that part of the debate, to be screaming and yelling? And I mean, don't people need to express themselves even if it's hateful?
Right. And there's definitely plenty of that. I mean, and we're not trying to exactly restrain that, but it's more like trying to move them to a higher place. So there is actual deliberation taking place, because that's what democracy is supposed to be, to come together and deliberate, and come to a consensus. We do need to counter these extreme tactics. It's not about countering people who want to tackle, the issue of illegal immigration. I think that it is something that we have to do together. We have to meet the challenge of dealing with the enforcement issues and the number of undocumented people here. Those are legitimate issues that we have to tackle. But it's the extreme political tactics that I think we have to stay away from and discourage. There were people who were deliberately spreading misinformation and inciting people to be afraid. And we don't think any good can come out of that, to get people so afraid that you can easily push them into taking very, very drastic actions.
Yeah.
So I think to counter that fear is just information and truth-telling, and asking people to have understanding and compassion for other points of view.
And learn how to speak English.
I speak English just fine.
You do, but these people don't.
I talk English and what?
No. So y'all, if you go to school and study and don't get into one of those gangs and you go to college, then I applaud you.
What else am I going to do?
They're here legally, okay? And they
That's
are
great.
American citizens.
That's great.
They speak English.
That's great.
Parents work very
That's
hard.
great.
Okay? Can you give them a chance?
I was watching, I think it was a BBC wildlife documentary, where they were filming baby lion cubs. And this snake comes up to the lion cubs. And the nature photographer is capturing this drama. And these cubs their lives are in danger. And he did not intervene. And those cubs, I believe, if memory serves, are killed. And he justified it later, saying, I couldn't interfere in this. This was nature's wheels in motion, and it was not for me to do that. Does that analogy make any sense to you?
No,
Where
it does.
you're participating as well in the documentary that you're standing back and capturing.
I mean, I understand that position. It is in our nature, in our human nature, which is part of nature, to want to help, right? To help the defenseless. So I think that I wouldn't have made his choice. There are these paradigms that we have about, I think, what truth-telling is, that I think we need to kind of maybe recalibrate as we go forward. Some of it has been a bit artificial, this notion that we can be completely neutral. I think we can be completely honest, but I don't know if there's a place where we can stand that's completely neutral, especially when there's a fight happening, right? And just in virtue of observing, you're really actually part of the fight. I mean, I guess I'm encouraging us to kind of recalibrate that so that, you know, we can have honest storytelling without these sort of artificial constructs where we try to hide our effect, our impact. It just felt like the honest thing to do in capturing the truth, that we capture the truth about who we were and where we were standing when we were filming at that moment at the fence. You know, Eric, who was holding the camera, included me in it, and it was spontaneous, but I feel like it really does say a lot about who I am and who we are.
Yeah. If you had to say this cogently, what would be the take-home of this movie for anybody? They've seen this movie. What do you hope at least they'll take home with them?
Well, two things, very simply. One is the immigrants are already integrated into our economy. And our economy really doesn't discriminate between legal and illegal. And so when you try to drive away this segment that supports our economy, you're basically affecting your entire community. So I think the extent to which they're already integrated has to be acknowledged as we go forward. The other piece is that in order for democracy to be a democracy, it requires people's participation, because not enough people participate. They hardly vote in these elections. People around the world are risking their lives to have democracy in their countries, and we really do take it for granted here. We have a democracy structurally, but if we don't participate, it's inert and it dies. And we're going to have bad collective decisions if we don't have that critical mass of people participating.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.